Mother, tell your children not to walk
Hello
my
everybody,
way.
and welcome to this. And this is kind of a request. Well, it is a very big request, actually. As most of you already know, Bill and Doug have officially now working for TNA with the TNA Addicts show, which is here on YouTube. And I have been asked, since, I am so linked to Bill and Doug, about what I thought of it, and particularly since I haven't done a kind of a response or talked about Bill and Doug in quite a while, what I thought about the show. Well, I can sum up the thing that if you go to TNA's website and you go to the community section and there's the Extreme Regime, if you go in there and you look at what these people think, and these are diehard TNA fans, think of this, they kind of summed it up. They didn't think it was good, and they actually thought Kent Jones could do a better job than Bill and Doug did on this show, and I kind of agree. I was pretty amazed when the video first went up and it was getting all these 5-star votes, and I think it was just people just, oh cool, it's Bill and Doug, and they weren't actually listening to the show, because the show was not very good. And all props to Bill and Doug for being signed by TNA, working with TNA. I know they've been working for this for a long time, and all props to them for that, and congratulations for that. But this show was horrible. I don't see where it achieved any of the goals that they were trying to get it to achieve, to be completely honest. Of course, the goal is to sell TNA. Any show you do like this, it's to sell TNA. And I don't think they did a very good job of that. They started with the Abyss angle, and they did a very bad job of that. They just basically kind of skimmed over and basically asked the question, are we ever going to see Abyss again? Is this the last we're ever going to see Abyss? And at no point did they bring up James Mitchell. James Mitchell is the catalyst to this. You have to bring up James Mitchell in this angle, or there's no reason to even do the angle. If you're going to sell it, you need to sell it. You need to say, did James Mitchell win? Did you see Impact? We have to ask, did James Mitchell finally win? Abyss walked out. Abyss looked at the scars. Perhaps he finally had enough of the physical and emotional abuse from James Mitchell, and he finally said he had enough. And he took off his mask and he walked out of the Impact Zone. Are we ever going to see Abyss again? Is Abyss finally gone? Are we ever going to see him again? Has James Mitchell finally won the war? This almost one-year-old war that he has had with Abyss, is it finally over? Are we finally going to see the end of Abyss? That's how you sell it. As over the top and as crazy as Abyss is and James Mitchell is, it's just like in The Undertaker. You have to sell it serious, even though it sounds funny and even though it's over the top. You have to sell it serious so the fans realize it's serious. Seriousness of it. You have to have a seriousness to it, even though it's Abyss and Abyss is kind of over the top. You kind of have to do that. From there, they went to the Karen Angle, AJ Styles, Kiss from the Karen Angle, Kurt Angle wedding, and they blew it on that too, in my opinion. Because this was, I believe, this is the quote. Is it Karen Angle or is it Karen Styles now? And it was supposed to be ha-ha funny. It was horrible. This is the way you sell this. You sell it like, they were getting married. It was a wonderful, it was a magical moment, I'm sure, for Karen and Kurt, and then Samoa Joe and Kevin Nash. You know it was Kevin Nash, the master of the mind games. Kevin Nash, it was his idea, walked out to disturb everything. It took Kurt off his game, because let's face it, Kurt, not always, easy to get into Kurt's head sometimes. And it totally blew everything up, and finally, through all the commotion, AJ finally had his chance. They had been teasing and tormenting and just getting AJ to do what they wanted, and finally, they had been offering AJ that fruit, that forbidden fruit, and AJ finally took a taste himself. And you have to ask yourself, kisses have destroyed entire empires. Perhaps this kiss has destroyed the Angle Alliance. And from there, after you talk about that, then you talk about the six-man, which TNA and Bill and Doug apparently have no concept how to sell. Joe did a pretty good job of it on Impact, but you talk about the fact that Joe has to have this match. This six-man has to take place before Joe can take on Angle, because we all know Joe can beat Angle. We've all seen it. It's happened before. We all know when it's just Joe and Angle, Joe can beat Angle. But when it's Joe versus the Angle Alliance, not so much. Joe has to have this six-man. Joe has to have Kevin Nash and Christian Cage, and they have to show solidarity, and they have to go out there, and they have to show that they have the power over the Angle Alliance, so that Joe can go in to lockdown and come out the champion, like so many of us have felt he was destined to be the day he walked in to TNA. That's how you sell. That's how you sell that match. You give that match importance. You explain why that match is important to the title match that happens down the road. You know, and they didn't do this. They talked about Robert Roode and Booker T, and they did an okay job with that. You know, but still the intensity wasn't there. There just wasn't intensity. It just felt like they were going through the motions. I don't know if they were overly scripted or what. If they were over scripted, that's TNA's fault. If they just didn't have the passion behind it, that's Bill and Doug's fault. And maybe they'll get better at it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Also, Elevation X. I don't understand why you wouldn't even bring up last year's Elevation X and talk about the fact that it was intense and it was gut-wrenching and it was emotionally and physically draining just watching that match. That if you watched that match, you were on the edge of your seat just waiting to see what was going to happen. It was one of those matches you were just mentally and physically into. If you've never seen the match, you need to go to TNA Shop. You need to get Destination X 07 that has that on it, and you need to see this match. That match alone is why you get this DVD. It is that good. It's such a match, you just have to see it to believe. It's gut-wrenching. You will stop the DVD right then and there because you can't continue after watching it. It takes that much out of you. It's that kind of a match. Imagine what it must be like to be in a match like that. That's how you sell a match like that. You don't sell it by just talking about, oh yeah, blah, 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 and just let the promo air. It doesn't work. Also, they need to learn a little bit better how to sell Impact. I mean, you know, this is to help to sell Impact. You need to, you know, get people like me that don't watch Impact. That really, they just fast forward through Impact usually on my TiVo because, you know, Impact is so horrible. Then they talked about Booker T and Kurt Angle. They did okay with that, but again, the intensity wasn't there. They didn't explain the importance of this match, how good this match could be. They needed to really, really sell that. Next, we got to the triple threat match between Johnny Devine, Petey Williams, and Sanjay Dutt. They didn't really do enough job of selling that either. You know, are Petey Williams and Sanjay Dutt going to team up against Johnny Devine for turning on the X Division? Is Petey Williams, you know, going to show that he's truly the Canadian muscle and the strongest man in the X Division? Or is Sanjay Dutt going to come on top? Which wouldn't that be so great and so wonderful if Sanjay Dutt won? Because, you know, at Destination X, we can have two guys that have utmost respect for each other going at it in a good, clean wrestling match to bring the glory of the X Division back to where it belongs. There you go. That's how you sell that. That's not hard. That's, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And then they talked about the World X Cup. They did pretty good with the World X Cup. I'm sure there were things they couldn't talk about. They then talked about wrestling figures and Jakks Pacific, and they did a bad job of this too, because all you have to do is say, you know, Jakks, TNA has signed an action figure deal now with Jakks Pacific. And actually, don't use action figures. You say collectible figures deal with Jakks Pacific. Of course, we all know Jakks Pacific. They make the best figures, wrestling figures. They're known for making good wrestling figures. Looking for that in your stores very soon. Then hype the live shows, which, you know, they've both been to the live shows, so you hype it. And when you hype live shows, do not talk about the fact that you went to the Dallas show and you felt like there weren't going to be any stage dives, and then in that regard you felt like you weren't going to get your money's worth. Stage dives do not mean you're not going to get your money's worth. It's what's happening in between the ropes that matters if you're going to get your money's worth or not. This isn't hard. This isn't difficult. Anybody could do this. Originally planned, me and Moral Virus were going to do our version of this, and I decided that wasn't probably going to go over very well. So, as people thought we were just trying to be kind of bitchy about it. But anyways, that's it. That's my version of what that's some constructive criticism from my part. Later.